When you receive your Workman XL trailer, you'll notice it'll be in a box already, all lifted up on pieces of wood so that you can get your forks under it with a forklift. You're going to take a simple pocket knife or Stanley knife, and you're going to go around. Make sure you're cutting upward, not inward, so that you don't scratch or mar your trailer. You're going to cut all the tape all the way around, and then you're going to open it up. After cutting your tape, simply remove and flip the lid. Now we suggest that you save your lid, because what you're going to want to do is, if you're working on in a gravel driveway or on concrete, you may want to flip the trailer over onto the cardboard to keep it safe and not scratch it up when you're putting it together. After you've unpacked everything, you'll of course have your bed, you'll have your 4 tires, you'll have a set of struts, and they both have grease fittings in them where you can grease them later. You'll have a hardware packet of bolts. You'll have a wiring harness. You'll have 2 packs of wiring harness. You'll have a pigskin to wrap your wiring harness, some zip ties, your electric actuator, your bed mount rest, your main frame, your crossbar support. You'll have your brake axle, your idler axle, your tongue, and we now include an optional extra heavy tongue support if you're going to haul heavy loads under rough terrain. Now, to get ready to set up your unit, you're going to want to set the bed up. Use your cardboard. You're going to want at least 2 people. You're going to want to lower it down onto the cardboard to keep it safe and not scratch up. After you flipped it over, the first thing you're going to want to do, take a Phillips screwdriver. You're going to want to remove the blocks of wood before you start assembling. You'll notice as we're installing it, here's our rear tailgate. We want our strut so that the back of the tailgate, so the axle will be closer to the rear tailgate than it will the front. After you've put your strut in place, the first thing you'll want to do is you'll have package A. You'll take out your nuts and bolts. And what I always suggest is get everything on and started by hand. Then after you've moved it around and got everything lined up, then tighten all your bolts afterwards. Now that we've got everything started, what we want to do is start putting our bolts and nuts in. You want to keep a screwdriver handy. Once in a while, some of these are not exactly lined up. Now, if you left your nuts and bolts loose on each end, it's going to make it easier, so you can maneuver it back and forth as needed to get them lined up, and then again, put everything on, get everything started. Once everything's done, then tighten it down. All right, to tighten these bolts, you'll need a 1/2-inch wrench, a 1/2-inch socket, or if you're lucky enough to have a nut driver, use that, save you some time. With your strut mounts and your tail light facing away from you, you'll want to set your crossbar on there. I ran the bolts up previously through the bottom. You'll have a washer underneath and the bolt coming up underneath. Then you'll put a washer and then your lock nut on. And repeat the process on the next side. And then you'll just go back to your 1/2-inch ratchet and wrench and tighten these down. You'll also want to make sure that the angle iron brackets are facing the front towards the brake box when assembling the cross mount. All right, for step number 6, you're going to use package C. You're going to have a washer on the bottom. Then you're going to put it through. Now you want to make sure you go to the bottom of the angle irons. So you'll start your bolt with your washer on, and then a washer and a nut. And you'll do all 4 corners and then tighten them down. You're going to use a 10mm wrench and socket. This is going to be package number C. Step number 6, you're going to install the brake box. With the angle iron, you'll want to make sure the brake box is facing the frame, facing downward if you're putting it together in this direction. All right, so in package D, step 7, you left all the bolts loose along here so you can maneuver these around easier. You're going to take your bolt, you're going to install a washer, you're going to line it up, install your second washer on the inside, and your nut, and then repeat the process on the other strut, and you're done with that step. When you're tightening these bolts, you just want to tighten them down until they just snug. This is your pivot point for the bed, so you just want to tighten down until it's snug, and then you're set, ready to go. Now we're on step 8, letter E, parts. You're going to have your bolt holes facing forward, because that's going to mount your electric actuator. You're going to take a bolt with a washer, stick it through the hole, repeat, bolt and washer on the other side, and then you're going to go back with another washer and nut on the bottom of each one, and repeat the same thing on the other side, and then tighten them down. Okay, when you go to tighten up all of your strut mounts, the best way we found to do it is start at one end. So you'll tighten down one end, and either the tailgate or the front. So tighten down both sides. Then go to the other end, tighten it down. That'll help pull your frame together. Because if you notice, your center strut lines on the inside are slotted to make them easier to line up. So pull it together as far as possible, and then tighten down all of your center bolts on both sides, and you're ready to go to the next step. When you tighten down your bed support, what you're going to want to do is take your 18mm and your adjustable wrench, tighten it down just so it's good and snug. And they are nylock nuts, so they're self-locking. So you don't have to tighten down as far as it can, because you do not want to slow down the movement, because this is the movement for your bed to tip. And then last, you're going to go back up, and you're going to tighten down with your 18mm once again, your crossbar, and then you're ready to go to step 10. Okay, you'll notice when you get your tires that they're partially deflated to fit in the box. Okay, sometimes what that can cause is on the sides of your tire you have the rim angles up, and the rubber bead of the tire has to be seated against the rim to keep the air locked in. And if just because of pressure bouncing around, you may have lost a bead in your tire. So if you put air in it, it keeps going flat. If you read on the side of the tire, it says maximum bead setting 15 pounds. So what you'll do is you'll take your air compressor, blow them up to 15 pounds inflation, and you'll hear once in a while, you'll hear a popping sound. If you hear the pop, what it is the rubber tire came out and forced its way onto the bead of the rim. Now, after you've ran it up to your 15 pounds, what you can do is deflate the tire back down to your 3 to 5 pounds of running air pressure that you actually want in the tires. All right, in step 10, you're going to get a 16mm and your adjustable wrench, and you're going to tighten down all 4 bolts on the crossbar, and now you're ready to go to step 11. Okay, so now we're ready to start mounting our actuator. We're going to start with packet F, the lower mounting hardware. You're going to need your 18mm socket and your adjustable wrench. You're going to make sure that the motor is facing down towards the bed. I put a piece of paper on so I could do it by myself and balance it so I didn't scratch everything up. With a washer on the end by the head, you run it in a little ways, then you'll take one of your spacers and put it to the outside, run that through the eye, then you'll add your second spacer on the opposite side, line it up with the hole, install your outside washer, and then your nut, get it finger tight, and then go to the next step. All right, now we're going to use packet letter G like in girl. Now if your actuator is sitting on top, just raise your frame a little bit, set it down. Then you're going to repeat what you did up front. You're going to remove your bolt spacer, washers. You're going to put a washer on the outside of the bolt. Now, before you attach this, what you're going to want to do is I'm going to raise this back up to show you. Well, the main thing you want to do is what's called setting your limit switch. You're going to screw this all the way in as far as it'll go until it stops. And then you're going to turn it out 2 complete turns. So 1, 2, and then raise it back up, set it down into place. Start your bolt, put your first spacer on, Raise it up, line up the hole for the actuator, get that started in, and you're going to go with your neck spacer, put it on, then you're going to go with your washer and your nylock nut. Then you'll tighten both these down with your 18 millimeter, and you're ready to go to the next step. Step 13 is really simple. You have your wire from the black plastic box and the wire coming out of the actuator. They only fit one way. You can plug them together. Now, on all of these plug-ins, we said in the manual that you use black plastic tape. Also, we send an extra wiring loom cover. It's optional if you would rather tape these together. If you're doing a lot of off-roading and like that with the trailer, you may want to, they fit really tight though. You don't have to, but you could cover this section with the loom. You probably have to cut it around the connectors and then tape everything together. And same when you do the tongue, after you plug the tongue in, if you want to tape them together so they can't come unplugged, so you don't have to take it back off and re-plug them back in because they're bouncing around. Okay, you'll notice you'll have two packets of hardware labeled H. One is for the front axle, one is for the back axle. Okay, this is the front, here's where your tongue goes. So the axle with the brakes goes to the front. Now, you might want to have two people. This is a little heavy with the brakes on it. Set it up on the frame. Slide it back into place. Line up your holes. Now the top are slotted. So what you'll do, you get it closed. You'll get a washer on top, a washer on bottom. And then you'll put your nut on, and you'll do that in all four holes. Now, what I want you to realize is the swing arm. So if you look, there's an arm on here. The swing arm goes towards the back of the unit on both axles. All right, next, before you tighten the bolts, what you're gonna wanna do is, you've got play in these, and they were purposely made that way to make it easier to put on. So you're gonna want to maneuver it around a little bit, side to side, try and get it split so it's as straight as possible running down the frame. Then you're gonna tighten the bolts. And then you can also, you'll unwrap your wire for the brakes, and then you'll notice up in front, there's the other wire. They can only go together one way. Plug those together. And again, for safety if you want, feel free to tape these up. All right, so now we're ready for step 15. This is your idler axle. Again, your swing arm will face the rear. So what you'll do, you'll set this one up on, line it up the same as the front one. This one does not have any brakes or brake wires, only the front one does. Line it up with your holes. You got the other H-pack of axle hardware. Don't confuse it with the H-pack for the tongue, because that'll be coming last. You'll put your washer on again, drop the bolt through the hole, put your bottom washer, start your nut, and then repeat that 3 more times, and line it up again, making sure your spacing is equal on both sides, tighten it down, and you're ready to go to the tongue. Before we put the tires on, while it's easy to see, I want you to notice that on both sides of the rear axle, there are grease zerks. You'll want to pack those with 3 to 4 squirts of grease annually. Now the front do not have zerks. The front axle has actual, well, they both have bearings, but that has bearings that you'll have to hand pack. So you'll actually have to remove the bearings and pack them. When it comes to you though, it's already pre-greased, ready to go. All right, so step 16 is just putting your tires on. You're gonna remove the lug nuts off of each one. Once you've removed all 4 lug nuts, then you're gonna put your tire on. Now, when you put your tire on, make sure that you locate the valve stem. You're going to want the valve stem facing the outside so that you're able to service it to put air in the tires when needed. All right, now to properly mount a tire, what you want to do, I've hand tightened all the lugs. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to take one of them and you're going to want to snug it up. Go to the one across from it, snug it up. Go to the next one, snug it up. And then go to the last one that you haven't hit, snug it up. You want to go on a cross pattern. That way you draw the rim on evenly. After you get it snug, then you're going to want to tighten it down. And again, you're going to tighten it down in a cross pattern. So after you get all the way tight, then you can go to your next lug. Now, once you flip it over and get it setting on the wheels, you might want to go back and hit it just a little bit to make sure they're all tight. But again, always tighten them in a cross pattern. All right, step number 17. You'll notice you have black, brown, yellow, and white. You'll notice inside you have a female on one and 3 males. On the other, you'll have 3 females and a male. So those will get plugged together before you can put your tongue on. Then you'll have a yellow, orange, and green, and that'll only plug in one way. So you can plug those in. Now, again, this is optional. If you wish, you can tape these together just to make sure you have a better fit so they don't come apart while you're moving. All right, so the easiest way we found, you'll notice there's a rubber grommet sitting here. The smaller one will fit easily in the rubber grommet. The bigger one won't. So the easiest way we found, take the rubber grommet off, put it to the back of the plug. After you get it past the plug, then you can fish the wiring into the unit. Once you have the wiring all the way in, then you'll replace the rubber grommet back on to keep your wires safe from getting cut. Okay, now take the grommet off the other side. Slide the grommet as far back as you can. Start feeding the wires into the tube. Okay, step 18, you're going to want to make sure that your hitch is pointed towards the sky, your ball hitch receiver. And this is easier with 2 people. So I got a helper here. He's going to raise up the hitch and help me get it aligned. And then you're going to start your bolts through. And we had a washer on the outside of the bolt head. We're going to put a washer and a nut on the other side. And then you'll simply tighten all 4 down and you're ready to go. Step 19, you're going to pull the excess wire out. You're going to run this down and run it through the safety clip. This is used to help it if you forgot to hook it up or unhook it, to help it so hopefully you don't rip your wires out. Okay, in step 20, make sure before you flip it over, flip your tailgate pin on the side you're flipping it to, out of the way. Make sure your D-rings aren't caught. Because if they're in solid, then you're going to bend your bracket, your D-ring. Now you're going to need 2 people. And you're going to lift, set it down with 1 person on each side. You're going to want to step and set it to the ground. And you've got your trailer built.